As we all know, and from previous speakers, you must have realized that co-crystals are becoming very important in today's pharmaceutical industry as an alternate solid form. Earlier, the pharmaceutical industry used to rely on solid forms like salt forms, polymorphs, and the amorphous form. But a new addition to this area has been that of co-crystals. When the drug discovery scientist is looking to optimize the material properties of the API, they now have one more additional tool in their basket in the name of co-crystals. Co-crystals have become part of the routine screening exercise during the solid form screening at the drug discovery stage itself, and especially for the non-ionizable drugs. The pharmaceutical scientists are looking at co-crystals with lot of enthusiasm. My talk is going to be slightly different today, that once the scientist has decided that they are going to use co-crystal as the alternate solid form, how are we going to pick up the most optimum co-crystal for pharmaceutical development? By pharmaceutical development, I mean the formulation development of the dosage form. So which of the co-crystal candidates is going to be the most suited one for the development of the final dosage form? This is going to be done through a judiciously done pre-formulation profiling exercise, based on which the most optimum co-crystal candidate will be selected. The flow of the presentation is first we'll have some introductory part about the different solid forms of the API, then a very brief introduction about the co-crystal, since you might have already been exposed to the introductory part of the co-crystals by the other speakers. Then would come our main focus of the talk, that is pre-formulation guided strategy for co-crystal candidate selection. We'll try to understand it with the help of a case study and then finally draw some conclusions. This is the classification at the molecular level for the solid forms of an API. Broadly, they are classified into crystalline solid and the amorphous solids. Crystalline solids can either be single component or multi-component solids. In multi-components, we have the hydrates or the solvates, the salt forms, and the co-crystals. Salts are useful for the ionizable drug molecules, while the co-crystals can be used for the non-ionizable drugs as well. Our focus is going to be on co-crystals today, and the co-crystals can further be classified as anhydrous co-crystals and their polymorphs, hydrated co-crystals and their polymorphs, and we can have a combination of co-crystals of salts plus their polymorphs, solvates, and the hydrates. On the other side, we have the amorphous form, which can also be used for enhancing the solubility of the pharmaceutical molecules. The main comparison between the solid forms in this particular classification is between the amorphous form and the co-crystals, because both of them can provide us enhancement in the water solubility. When we are choosing a particular solid form for pharmaceutical development, there are four properties which are important: processability, solubility and dissolution rate, stability and hygroscopicity, and the mechanical properties like flow properties and the compaction properties. We must choose one solid form which has an overlap of all these four properties, because all of them are important for the subsequent pharmaceutical development. This is known as the sweet spot, where all the four properties overlap, and these are the optimized properties for the pharmaceutical development. Co-crystallization can modulate all the above physicochemical properties without requiring covalent modifications. That is why it has become increasingly attractive for the pharmaceutical scientists to work upon. This is a comparative overview of co-crystals with other solid forms in terms of various physicochemical parameters like solubility, dissolution rate, physical stability, chemical stability, compaction properties, hygroscopicity, and the scale-up potential. If we compare it with the other solid forms, co-crystals give us an enhancement of 4 to 20 times in the solubility, which is almost equal to that of the amorphous, but it is less than that of the salt form. There is obviously going to be an increase in the dissolution rate since the saturation. And the physical stability of the co-crystals is much better as compared to that of the amorphous form. So all these properties are evaluated during the pre-formulation stage, and based on the fact that we have optimal nature of all these properties, we pick up the most suitable co-crystal form for the further development. Co-crystals have been defined by scientific community and by the regulatory bodies like US FDA in slightly different way. I'm pretty sure that the previous speakers must have covered these definitions, so I'm not going to read through these definitions. The important aspect in these definition is that they are single phase materials and they contain two or more different molecular and or ionic compounds, generally in a stoichiometric ratio, which are neither solvents nor simple salts. This is just one example of a carbamazepine succinic acid co-crystal. This is the molecule of carbamazepine and this is succinic acid, and this is the unit cell of the co-crystals, wherein each COH group of the succinic acid forms two hydrogen bonds with amide functional group of carbamazepine. Literature is full of examples of other co-crystals also, not only for carbamazepine, but for a vast variety of drugs these days, you will see examples of co-crystals given in the literature. Now the differentiation between co-crystals, simple salts, solvates and hydrates and polymorphs is covered in this particular slide. These are the pictorial depictions of the salt, where this blue color hexagon is representing the API, which has some charge with it, and we have the counter ion in the salt form. While in the case of the solvent or the hydrate, the guest molecule is either a solvent or water. In the case of co-crystal, we have neutral guest molecule along with the API in the crystal lattice. Polymorphs are made up of purely of the API and they are only showing differences in the crystal lattice arrangement with respect to each other. So contrary to the salts, there is no complete transfer of proton in the case of co-crystals, and its synthesis does not require presence of ionizable functional moiety. The second component in that is the coformer is non-volatile in the case of co-crystals. It has a definite stoichiometry and it is a multi-component system unlike the polymorphic forms. The interest in co-crystals has been increasing over the years, which is very evident from the number of publications and patents which have come out in this field. This is a SciFinder search based on 2015. So there is an increasing number of publications coming in this field, and it is interesting to note that the 80% of the patent landscape is captured by the pharmaceutical industry, which means the industries or the companies see a lot of worth in the commercial exploitation of co-crystals. Now we'll come to the main part of our talk. That is on the pre-formulation guided strategy for selection of co-crystal candidates for drug product development. This is a pre-formulation decision tree which we had proposed in one of our articles that was published in 2017 in Journal of Pharmaceutical Sciences. It gives us a systematic way of conducting pre-formulation studies on co-crystal candidates, The first thing that needs to be checked is the safety of the coformer so that the co-crystal can be exploited commercially. And then the second thing to be taken into consideration is weight contribution of the coformer. Then we study certain critical pre-formulation parameters in the co-crystal like solubility, which includes the eutectic constant determination, pH solubility profile, solubility in biorelevant media, phase transformation profiles, dissolution studies, intestinal permeability studies, stability studies both physical and chemical, solution state and photostability, and the hygroscopicity. So these are the critical pre-formulation parameters which must be met in the case of the co-crystal candidate, because these are very important for the subsequent development of the co-crystal into a viable dosage form. If these critical parameters are satisfied, then we can move over to the next stage of studying the additional pre-formulation parameters. And if these are not met, then we will go back to the starting point and look for some more co-crystal candidates so that they meet all these criteria optimally. The additional pre-formulation studies include polymorph screening, mechanical properties like tabletability, then the compatibility studies and the microenvironmental pH studies. If these are also met, which means the critical pre-formulation as well as the additional pre-formulation parameters are met, then the co-crystal candidate can be selected for product development. But if these are not met, then we look at the possibility that can rational formulation interventions or the packaging components, which are also called as the container closure system or process design, mitigate the challenge, which means by certain interventions at our end, can we take care of these additional pre-formulation parameters which were non-optimal? If the answer to this is yes, then that particular candidate can also be taken forward for development. But if the answer to this is no, then again we'll have to go back to the first step and look for some more co-crystal candidates which are able to meet both the critical pre-formulation as well as the additional pre-formulation parameters. You will see later in the case study we have used the same decision tree for investigating the developability of certain co-crystal candidates which we had selected for our research work. So now we move over to the case study where we are looking at co-crystal based drug product for improving the biopharmaceutical performance of a BCS class 2 drug, rivaroxaban. We did some theoretical calculations about the deabsorbable and the time for dissolution of the unmicronized and the micronized drug, and based on this it was concluded that the rivaroxaban has both solubility as well as dissolution rate limited bioavailability. It is one of the leading drugs being sold. This is the commercial value of rivaroxaban in the international market. The innovator company has handled this issue of solubility and dissolution rate limited bioavailability of rivaroxaban by a technology which has been patented and is called as hydrophilization of micronized form of rivaroxaban using fluidized bed granulation for 10 milligram strength. However, the innovator could not solve the problem of poor bioavailability at 20 milligram strength. Rivaroxaban is a non-ionizable drug, which means we cannot form a salt form, and it has an aqueous solubility of 7 to 8 micrograms per ml. But for complete absorption of the 20 milligram dose, we require about 11 microgram per ml of the solubility, which means we have to almost double the solubility of the rivaroxaban through the co-crystal formation. We started with 28 coformers and selected them based on the delta PK rule and the synthon approach. And the synthon structure in the rivaroxaban was oxazolidinone, aminomorpholinone and carboxamide, and we did a differential scanning colorimetry technique because it allows to do the study in very limited amount of material. So it is a material sparing DSC based study that was carried out. And in that study, if there was a single endothermic peak observed at all heating rates, it was concluded that a eutectic system is being formed. While if there was a endo, exo and endo type of combination or several endothermic peaks observed like this, the co-crystal is the likely output, and it was confirmed by carrying out the liquid assisted grinding in various molar ratio of 1:1, 1:3 and 3:1. And we saw whether a co-crystal is being formed. If the answer is yes, that co-former was selected. And if the answer to this was no, then is a distinct endotherm observed in any of the molar ratio? If the answer was no, then that co-former was dropped. But if the answer was yes, then we tried co-crystallization using other methods like the solution crystallization or liquid assisted grinding. Based on these, out of the 28 co-formers that we started with, 3 co-formers were selected: malonic acid, oxalic acid dihydrate, and 4-hydroxybenzoic acid. These were the 3 candidates that were shortlisted. Then we assessed the safety of these co-formers from a pharmaceutical perspective. So we calculated that how much of the co-former would be present if we are taking an equivalent of 20 milligrams of rivaroxaban. So there would be 7.5 milligram of malonic acid, and oxalic acid dihydrate would be 11 milligram, while 4-hydroxybenzoic acid would be 19.3. And it was found out from literature that these quantities are well within the quantities that have been previously approved by the regulatory agencies in some of the previous applications in some form. So the amount of the co-former that is going to go into the co-crystal was well within the safety limits as given by the previous approvals from the oral route of administration. Then we went ahead with carrying out the essential pre-formulation properties of solubility, dissolution, permeability, stability, and hygroscopicity. The first study that was carried out was solubility in biorelevant media. If you remember, we had said that for the 20 milligram dose of rivaroxaban to be absorbed optimally, we require 11 micrograms per ml of solubility. So these are the studies that were done for rivaroxaban 4-HPA co-crystal, rivaroxaban oxalic acid dihydrate co-crystal, and rivaroxaban malonic acid co-crystal. So these studies were carried out, and what we were looking was at 2 to 3 fold higher solubility in these media. So this is the overall graph that has been given here. So rivaroxaban has a solubility of 9.3 micrograms per ml in fasted state simulated intestinal fluid version 2, while it has a solubility of 17.6 in the fed state medium. Rivaroxaban and malonic acid co-crystal gives us a good jump in the solubility, which is much higher than the required solubility of 11 micrograms per ml. Oxalic acid co-crystal also gives the required value, while 4-HBA co-crystal does not show an increase in the solubility, and it is almost similar or even less than that of the rivaroxaban. So from a solubility perspective, this 4-HBA co-crystal is not going to be useful for our particular study. Then the pH solubility profile was determined, and we can say, and we did the solubility in pH 1.2, 4.5 and 6.8 for the malonic acid and the oxalic acid co-crystal. So in the inset we have shown the profile of the solubility behavior. Malonic acid shows a more than 4 hours of phase transformation time, which was analyzed by the X-ray powder diffraction pattern of the residue after the solubility study. So this is actually the desired kind of profile because the supersaturation is being maintained for a biopharmaceutically relevant time frame. While in the case of oxalic acid, although there is an increase in the solubility, but subsequently the fall in the solubility is also very fast, and the phase transformation time was found to be 20 minutes only. The dissolution studies of the three co-crystal systems were compared with rivaroxaban in a medium of 0.04% sodium lauryl sulfate in pH 4.5 acetate buffer, which had a zinc index of 0.45, and you can see here that the values of the malonic acid co-crystal is much higher than that of the rivaroxaban, while the other oxalic acid and the 4-HBA co-crystal also show a little bit improvement. We calculated the F2 values and we found that the F2 values of rivaroxaban versus the Riv-Mal co-crystal was 34, which means the profiles were not similar. And similarly, the values were calculated for the other co-crystal systems as well. The dissolution rank order was found to be rivaroxaban has the least dissolution, followed by 4-HBA, followed by oxalic acid and malonic acid co-crystals. So malonic acid gave us the highest solubility as well as the dissolution rate. The intestinal permeability studies were also carried out, and it was found out that rivaroxaban shows a efflux ratio of 1.88, which means that it is a substrate for PGP efflux. While if we give it along with the cyclosporin A, which is an inhibitor of the PGP efflux, the apical to basolateral and basolateral to apical permeabilities, they become almost similar. Then subsequently, the permeability profiles of the co-crystals were also found out along with the physical mixtures, and it was concluded that the P apparent values of rivaroxaban co-crystals and their physical mixtures from apical to basolateral and basolateral to apical direction did not show a significant difference, which means co-crystallization did not have a significant impact on the intestinal permeability. Then the solid state stress stability and effect of microenvironment on the co-crystal candidates was studies. There was no significant degradation for all the samples for 1 month at 40 degrees Celsius, 75% RH. And similarly, there was no significant rivaroxaban degradation in all the samples in solid state when stored for 3 months at 40 degrees Celsius, 75% RH in open and dry conditions. However, there was an interesting observation that in the presence of a basic stressor, that is sodium carbonate, rivaroxaban 4-HBA showed a yellow degradation with 50% reduction in the assay value of 4-HBA, while there was no evidence of rivaroxaban degradation as it maintained a assay value of 98.6%. Now this highlights the importance of carrying out the pre-formulation studies on the co-crystal candidate, that although the drug candidate does not show any degradation, but we can see that the co-former is showing some degradation in the stability studies. So if the co-former is showing some degradation, obviously the lattice of the co-crystal will not be maintained for the period of stability studies, and we need to rule out that particular co-former. So from this study also, it is evident that 4-HBA is not a suitable co-former for the co-crystals. From the solubility studies as well as the dissolution studies also, 4-HBA was found to be unsuitable for the development of the pharmaceutical dosage form. What came out till now was that malonic acid gives us the highest improvement in solubility as well as dissolution rate. It does not show any changes in the intestinal permeability, while the stability is also maintained. So malonic acid can be one good candidate along with the oxalic acid dihydrate co-crystal for further development. Thereafter, the hygroscopicity studies were carried out using the dynamic vapor sorption studies for the co-crystals as well as the rivaroxaban. These are the sorption and desorption isotherms for the DVS studies, that is dynamic vapor sorption studies. This black color is for rivaroxaban. It practically is non-hygroscopic in nature. And this red color line is for the rivaroxaban oxalic acid co-crystal, which again shows very little gain of moisture. While in the case of the rivaroxaban malonic acid, we can see that there is an increase in the moisture sorption at values greater than 60% RH, which means it has a tendency to pick up water, while the 4-HBA also shows some changes in the moisture sorption behavior. So we concentrated on the rivaroxaban malonic acid co-crystal because that we consider was one of the better candidates for further development. So this is the sorption and desorption behavior for rivaroxaban. Red one is for the malonic acid and this blue one is for the malonic acid alone, that is the coformer. And if you look at the percent moisture gain, rivaroxaban malonic acid shows 6% moisture gain as against 0.13 shown by rivaroxaban and 11.1% moisture gain if it is normalized by the surface area. So we then went ahead to understand the molecular basis of water sorption behavior of rivaroxaban and malonic acid, because we got this interesting observation that there is a 39 times higher water sorption which is exhibited by rivaroxaban malonic acid co-crystal. This hygroscopicity behavior in fact is very important during the pharmaceutical development, because it can not only lead to certain physical instability, but it can also lead to gain of moisture and subsequent chemical degradation of the active drug. So that is why we took up it as a further study to understand that why there is so much increase in the moisture sorption because of the presence of the malonic acid coformer in the rivaroxaban or co-crystal of rivaroxaban malonic acid. We first did a simple study of identifying the surface exposed groups by the single crystal XRD. So the single crystal solution of rivaroxaban and rivaroxaban malonic acid were solved with the help of a collaborator in Indian Institute of Technology, Ropar. And these are the types of arrangements that are existing for rivaroxaban, and these are the molecular arrangements that are present for the rivaroxaban malonic acid. Then we did a phase index section study, which is again done with the help of a single crystal X-ray diffraction machine to find out the percent contribution of the each facet in the overall morphology of these samples, that is rivaroxaban malonic acid and rivaroxaban malonic acid co-crystal. We identified the surface exposed group on these particular morphological systems of rivaroxaban malonic acid and the co-crystal, and these are the various facets that are shown here: 001, 101, 011. So this is for the sample number A and this is for sample number B. So what came out from this study was that this is the molecular lipophilic potential of rivaroxaban and malonic acid. You can see most of the molecule in the case of rivaroxaban is hydrophobic in nature. So these zones that are shown by the brown color, they are relatively hydrophilic in nature, while the ones that are shown by the brown colors one are hydrophobic in nature, while the ones which are in blue color, they are relatively hydrophilic. While in the case of malonic acid, most of the molecule was hydrophilic in nature. In the case of the co-crystal, in the case of rivaroxaban, most of the molecule is hydrophobic in nature. And then we calculated the contribution from the hydrophilic, hydrophobic, and hydrophilic plus hydrophobic contribution on all the facets of the crystals for malonic acid, rivaroxaban, and Riv-Mal co-crystal. What came out was interesting, that in the malonic acid, most of the contribution comes from the hydrophilic groups, which are shown by this blue color, while some contribution of 41% comes from a combination of hydrophilic and hydrophobic group, which are shown by this green color. While for rivaroxaban, majority of the contribution comes from hydrophobic groups that are shown in the red color, while some contribution of 34.8% comes from the combination of hydrophilic and hydrophobic, which has been shown by the green color. Now look at the contribution which comes in the co-crystal. So the 57.9% comes from hydrophobic, which is slightly less than that of rivaroxaban hydrophobic contribution, while 42.1% comes from the combination of hydrophilic and hydrophobic groups. Now this shows that there is some decrease in the hydrophobic contribution in the co-crystal in comparison to the rivaroxaban, which might be contributing to higher hygroscopicity of the co-crystal. However, the entire story is not getting cleared from the previous slide, because just a minute, I think there is can you see the slides now?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
Slides are not visible. So what I'll do is I'll just try to share it again.
Yes, sir.
Just give me a minute.
Yes.
Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think I pressed something at the top, which is like stop presenting. So sorry for that.
No issues, sir. Please.
So in the rivaroxaban and malonic acid, although there is a marginal decrease in the contribution from the hydrophobic groups, but it actually does not explain 39 times more hygroscopicity in the co-crystal. So we went ahead to study the strength of the interactions between the hydrophilic groups that are present on the surface of the co-crystal and the water. In the case of rivaroxaban, there is hydrogen bond formation with water molecules at the carbonyl group, while in the rivaroxaban malonic acid, there are two places where this interaction takes place, at the hydroxyl group as well as the carbonyl group coming from the carboxylic acid group. I think again the slides have disappeared.
No, sir. Slides are visible.
Slides are visible?
Yes, sir.
But I am not able to see the slides on my screen.
Oh. So you just stop the sharing and then again you just share it. Yes.
Yeah.
Now it is visible, sir, again.
Okay, sorry. So what happened was that we studied the strength of the interaction, that is the hydrogen bonding interaction between the water molecule and the hydrophilic groups that are present in rivaroxaban, and using the DFT calculations with the help of the computer software, we found out that the interaction between rivaroxaban and water has a hydrogen bonding strength of minus 5.1 kilocalories per mole, while the interaction between the malonic acid and water, we remember malonic acid would also be present in the case of the co-crystal. There is a dual hydrogen bonding which comes with a strength of minus 10.2 kilocalories per mole. And then there is a single hydrogen bonding interaction coming with a strength of minus 6.1 kilocalories per mole. So presence of the surface chemical groups that have strong hydrogen bonding interactions with water molecules increases the water absorption tendency of the crystalline solid as compared to those which have weaker hydrogen bonding interaction, which means it is not only the relative contribution of the hydrophobic and hydrophilic groups, but what is also important is the strength of the hydrogen bonding that is occurring between the surface groups and water. In the case of the co-crystal, there was slight increase or slight decrease in the hydrophobic contribution, but the type of interaction that was occurring between water and the malonic acid molecules by way of hydrogen bonding was much stronger as compared to rivaroxaban alone. So which means the amount of water sorbed by the co-crystal is governed both by the surface molecular environment and additionally by the strength of hydrogen bonding between the surface exposed group and the water molecule. So this has been pictorially shown in this particular diagram. So these are these different facets that are present on the co-crystal, while the strength of the hydrogen bonding interaction is also important. Then we went ahead to evaluate the additional co-crystal preformulation properties of polymorph screening, mechanical properties, microenvironment pH studies, and compatibility studies. Polymorphic screening we did, but there were no polymorphs found for either of the co-crystal systems. Rivaroxaban oxalic acid existed as a tetrahydrate form. Anhydrous form could be formed by storing the co-crystal at RH value of less than 20%. However, at the ambient humidity, anhydrous form got converted to the hydrated form. We also studied the mechanical properties of tabletability of rivaroxaban, malonic acid, and the Ribmal co-crystal. All of them had acceptable kind of property. So this is the graph for the co-crystal, and this is the optimal tensile strength that is required for a particular tablet. However, this property is not very important for the pharmaceutical development because rivaroxaban is a low dose drug, and in the case of low dose drugs, the most of the tabletability is going to be contributed by the excipients, not by the API. Then we did the studies on the microenvironmental pH. Since the drug is non-ionizable, it has the same microenvironment and bulk pH. So rivaroxaban is a non-ionizable drug. Hence, effect of microenvironment pH was not observed on solubility and stability studies. We did not carry out a compatibility study, but rather we used the same set of excipients which have been used by the innovator in the development of their product Xylarato. So by doing that, we ensured that the same excipients are being used. That is why we did not go ahead with doing the co-crystal excipient compatibility studies. Nevertheless, it should not be taken up as a general rule because there is a possibility that there could be a likely interaction between the co-former and the excipient. Rather than the API and the co-former, there is always a possibility that the co-former and the excipient are showing some interactions. After completing the pre-formulation studies, we adopted a weighted criteria matrix, which is based on a lean sigma based approach to rank order the different candidate co-crystals. So this is the RIVMAL system. This is this is rivaroxaban oxalic acid co-crystal, and this is rivaroxaban 4-HPA co-crystal system. So there were some net scores which were allotted to this, and we can see the maximum score was obtained by RIVMAL co-crystal, and hence it was given rank number 1, which means this is the most suitable candidate for the development of the pharmaceutical dosage form. And the criteria that were included in rank ordering were that of solubility, stability, hygroscopicity, and intestinal permeability. Then we went ahead and developed a tablet dosage form for the RIVMAL co-crystal system. Various prototypes were developed using these unit formula that have been shown on this particular in this particular table. We then converted it into the tablet dosage forms. So the critical challenge that were identified during formulation development and what are the interventions that were required for the RIVMAL system was hygroscopicity. Selected RIVMAL for product development was non-hygroscopic up to RH of 60%, but exhibited significant water gain at RH greater than 80%. Therefore, it was challenging to process using unit operations involving high amount of water, such as wet granulation techniques for tablet formation. Therefore, alternative manufacturing process like the dry granulation process were employed for manufacturing of the tablet dosage form. Now, this property of hygroscopicity would also require that subsequently, once the tablets have been formed, we will try to use a packaging system which prevents the ingress of moisture into the product. So these are some of the suggested strategies that are useful for overcoming co-crystal related formulation challenges. Remember, these are some general guidelines which have been developed based on our case study. So if you have solubility and thermodynamic stability related issue, then we can use pH modifying agent, surfactants, polymers, or a combination of both surfactant and polymers to overcome the quick co-crystal phase transformation. If there is a very fast phase transformation of the co-crystal, the solubility advantage that is obtained by the co-crystals will be lost, and we will not be able to exploit that advantage biopharmaceutically. For improving the dissolution, we can obviously use particle size reduction as one of the strategies. For permeability, if the permeability is getting affected because of the coformer, then permeation enhancers can be used. For improving the chemical stability, pH modifying agents can be made use of. For physical stability, especially related to moisture, we can use certain desiccants in the formula, or we can use a suitable manufacturing process like we did in our case, that is we used a dry process, or you can control the manufacturing environment or the percent relative humidity during the manufacturing stage, and you can use a packaging strategy that prevents the ingress of moisture into the finished dosage form. If microenvironment pH is causing the effect, we can use pH modifying agents or buffers in our formulation. And in the case of compaction mediated phase transformation, we can use either an ultra solid form, a solid dosage form, like instead of tablet, we can use a capsule, since it will not involve a compaction stage, or we can use certain agents which are caused as cushioning agents. So these above suggestions can be employed to improve the product performance of co-crystal based products, and these are some of the general strategies that can be adopted. Then we did a oral bioavailability study of the innovator product, that is Xelerto, and our RIVMAL tablet in rats. These are the pharmacokinetic parameters or profiles that were obtained. So there is, you can see an increase in the pharmacokinetic parameters as shown in this particular graph. So there was an improvement of 6 times in the Cmax value. The Tmax was reduced by 0.7 times. The AUC increased by 5 times, and AUC 0 to infinity improved by 3.3 times. So this is the summary of the co-crystal product development that was carried out. First, we defined the quality target product profile. Then we screened the co-former. In our case, 28 co-formers were screened. Then the co-crystal candidates were selected based on some criteria. First criteria was co-former safety. We have to ensure that there is a pharmacological safety of the co-former that is being used in the co-crystal. Then we did a pre-formulation profiling consisting of solubility, dissolution, stability, hygroscopicity, and permeability. Rivaroxaban 4-HBA was rejected because of poor stability, while rivaroxaban oxalic acid co-crystal showed rapid solution mediated phase transformation and poor hydrate stability. Because of this, these two co-crystal candidates were rejected, and we selected the rivaroxaban malonic acid co-crystal for the formulation development, and it finally showed improved in vivo performance and improved manufacturability. So these are the take-home messages from today's presentations. Co-crystals have provided a broad platform for modulation of material properties that are critical during the pharmaceutical development and have emerged as a promising alternative to traditionally used solid form. Despite rising numbers of research publications and patents, the systematic approach for development of co-crystal based formulations is lacking in the field of co-crystal research. Translational development of this novel solid form from bench to bed is not straightforward due to its unique physicochemical properties and structural features. As we outlined using the case study of rivaroxaban, the suggested pre-formulation based strategy can guide the product development in number of ways, like the suitability of the co-crystal for further development, identifying potential problems during processing and manufacturing of the formulation, understanding the potential stability of the products during the shelf life, and devising alternate strategies for handling, formulating, storage, and manufacturing of the drug product, which was created using the co-crystal candidate. So overall, what we are trying to highlight here is that designing the co-crystals from a crystal engineering perspective is important. What is also important is that we select the most optimal co-crystal candidate. Whenever we do research in the area of co-crystals, we will generate a large number of co-crystal types for a given API. Now, out of those co-crystal candidates, which one is going to be the most useful for product development can be found out by using a pre-formulation based strategy. Only when we apply such strategies for the translational development of the co-crystal candidates, we will be able to convert the co-crystals from the bench to the bedside. So thank you very much for your attention during the talk. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Thank you very much.